Welcome to Inside Design with Kandrak and Cole, hosted by two nationally published Atlanta interior designers, Joanne Kandrak and Kelly Cole. These energetic women are also world travelers, charity givers, and bloggers with a wealth of information to share and stories to tell about the interior design world. Okay, now just a warning, this is going to be fun and not too serious. After all, they still do have an interior design business running at full speed.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 48 of Inside Design with Kandrak and Cole. And today is a great day because we get to chat with a guy whom we adore and revere as a very close friend. And that would be Adam Japko. Adam is the CEO of Esteem Media. If you're a designer or design enthusiast, you might know of his publications Atlanta Homes and Lifestyles and New England Home Magazine. He is also the founder of the Design Influencers Conference, which we attended last week, and which was formerly called the Design Bloggers Conference. We're talking to him today because he's got a new trick up his sleeve, the launch of the Luxury Home Design Summit to be held on Cape Cod, Massachusetts this May. Welcome, Adam.
So good to be here with you ladies.
Yay, he's here. So I want to do a little sidebar here because I have, Joanne and I both, but I'm like obsessed with this podcast called Skimm'd from the Couch, which if you guys ever listen to the Skim, that easy news email with Carly Zakin and Danielle Weisberg, they're out of New York City. We recommend this podcast to every entrepreneur listening or even a business owner because this one has so much inspiration and wisdom. I just love it. And so many times they ask their guests to skim their resumes. So before we dive into the Luxury Home Design Summit, Adam, I want you to skim your resume for us.
Skim my resume.
From the top, from that boy with the cello.
Well, that's interesting. So I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in a part of Brooklyn called Sheepshead Bay, which was really weird because it was a kind of integrated ghetto of Irish, Eastern European, Jews, Italians, etc., all first and second generation immigrants. And it was chock-a-block, like you would think in New York City, that everybody was on top of each other, but it was right on the ocean. And when I was approaching my final years of high school, I didn't know if I was going to become a commercial fisherman and buy a boat or whether I was going to go to university. And I ended up going to university on a cello scholarship at NYU, and then never played a note of the cello in the orchestra. I just put a pickup on my cello and went to the park and played in the park on the weekends. And so my career kind of launched from there. I went to journalism school and started out in buying media at an ad agency for HBO before HBO was anything. And then I decided that I preferred selling media and taking people to lunch and getting to know people. It was the years of the 3 martini lunch. I go from
Excellent.
And
I miss those years, Dan.
Yeah.
And here I was in New York City, marching up and down Madison Avenue and working for various different magazines and media companies, and my career kind of moved along. And then I realized the future was technology, so I moved to Boston with my family in '91 and ended up running a technology media company, and that was a really powerful thing to do in the '90s. And then 2005, I had enough of that, and I went to the housing market, and for a large company with a private equity partner, we started buying all of the local home design magazines that we could. And we bought 12 regional home design magazines over that time. And I fell in love with the design industry, and I decided that I would never leave it. And here I am, started my company in 2014 called Esteem Media. And we basically produce local magazines, as you mentioned, and conferences, various kinds of conferences. But really important to me is never to do a conference that talks about today or yesterday, but to always be forward-looking and help design professionals embrace various kinds of inflection moments along their path that maybe they weren't prepared for or trained for when they first started their design businesses out of passion and creativity.
You know what I love about this is that, you've kind of got the left brain, right brain. You've got the designers who have the kind of artsy flair, whatever, and then to mix technology with it because you can't do what we do. Sorry. And we couldn't do what you do. So it's a very good marriage of two businesses that need each other, I think.
Yeah, when something's right in your life, don't you? Don't you have that experience?
Yeah,
where you
totally.
That's right. Like the two of you have been together since the beginning of time, right?
Yes.
And it's just right. And for me, being in the design industry where the brands are people, and people have always been my love of the world. I just love knowing people and helping people. And that sounds a bit altruistic, but it really isn't. It's kind of who I am. So design was perfect. It was just perfect for me. And I just can never imagine doing anything else again, including retirement. I still am chasing the day that I want to stop doing something, but it just doesn't seem to be apparent.
Well, and I find it interesting that you targeted the interior design business because you're not an interior designer. You wear really cool sneakers, but otherwise you're kind of like, a simple looking dude. And and you turn to our friends and our industry for help with your homes. And it's, you're not an interior designer, but you see that there is so much out there in our industry in terms of marketing and social media and technology and just creative people and forward thinking and fun people like us.
Well, and speaking of the forward thinking, the changing the Design Bloggers Conference to the Design Influencers Conference. So just tell us about that for a minute.
Yeah, it was highly organic. When I started the Design Bloggers Conference, I was a blogger. I was a wine blogger. And I went to a couple of wine blogger conferences. And it was like off the hook amazing, to be able to, be connected with the people that you're connected with online, but to actually be with them and enjoy the passions that you share together. And so when I launched the Design Bloggers Conference, I really didn't know much about design. It was really happenstance getting into design because we were looking for the next path to growth for a company that had lots of local real estate magazines and apartment magazines. And there were all these independently owned design magazines that just seemed like a good business opportunity to roll up. And once I got into it, it was like, it's like you hit gold. You realize this is where I was meant to be. So why I launched the Design Bloggers Conference was simply attending wine bloggers conferences. Of course, they're quite different. The communities are different. And there's more money in design. The people who are part of our community are working on projects that are more significant than wine bloggers. And it just kind of took off. I didn't know if we were going to end up doing one design blogger conference in LA, the first one, have a party with 50 people and call it a day. But it kind of took off. And as time passed, in those days, it was like, I have a blog, I have an audience. Now, what do I do with it? Right. Yeah. And, where does it go? I've got some posts and, what do I do? And so it was very basic and very early. But as time passed and new platforms emerged and new opportunities for people who built influence, whether it be getting lines and brands, doing podcasts, writing books, becoming Instagram stars, the platforms changed. The concept of Design Bloggers Conference was still viable, but it was now platform agnostic. It wasn't just about blogging. And so all of a sudden, all of our content started to emerge and change. And it was still called the Design Bloggers Conference, but it was anything but a Design Bloggers Conference. It was a Design Influence Conference. So I hated to change the name because brands are hard to come by, good brands, but we did it. And it also, this year, which was our first one, it kind of gave us the permission to stretch the boundaries of the content a little bit more than we had. And it turned out really, really good, I thought. You guys were there.
I thought it was Of course, and it was very well received, I think.
Yes.
And we've been to every single conference except for 2, I think. So how many total has there been? 9? So, but yeah, it was very well received, I think.
Oh yeah,
we enjoyed it for sure.
We've heard from a lot of people say that it was really their favorite one.
Yeah.
But it was mine too. But every year, I'm the biggest critic. To me, it feels favorite, but it's never good enough. And that scares the heck out of me when we're done with one and we have a blank slate for the next one. So that's where we are right now.
Well, the next one is in San Fran, so we're so excited, and we always look forward to the next one, of course. But now, just because we can't get bored or anything, you have come up with something totally different, or to a different audience, which is the Luxury Home Design Summit, which is going to be this May 19th through 21st at the Chatham's Bar Inn Resort and Spa. Oh my God, I love that place. And on the Cape, where my sister lives, which is why I know of this place, and it's like unbelievable. So it looks to be like this event is more focused on the higher level, kind of architects, design principals, landscape architects, design and builders and contractors that are in the luxury design market. And so I'm really intrigued about this because I see this. You've got 18 speakers already, and you've got some broadened the variety of speakers that we've seen at Design Influencers Conference, like Andrew Davis and Steve Miller, who look so cool and interesting. So for those people that don't really know how crazy you are and how great these conferences are, give them your pitch for this new one.
Well, I don't know if it's so much a pitch, but I can, again, not every conference is for everybody, but every conference is for somebody. And so I can tell you a little bit about why we're doing it, what my motivation was here. And that was that, we produce good conferences, and I really love it.
You do.
For me, I love it. And it's the thing in our company that I am personally invested in from an intellectual and time point of view. And, there's so many events out there that help attendees optimize their current business systems or continue their design education, or maybe to hear from design icons to recant their journeys and so forth. But that's not a conference for me, because that kind of helps people do exactly what they're doing now, maybe better, And I get motivated when I think about, I try and look at things a little differently and listen to the community and understand what their pain points are. And so many people got into this business, as I mentioned before, through a creative passion, or just a passionate step they took to get into design, and then their businesses took off. But more than there's inflection points throughout the development of anyone's business that they need to navigate successfully, but they don't always see coming. And then it's upon them, and they themselves in their work and their education aren't solely trained to navigate a lot of these different challenges and opportunities that come along. And
which is happening in our industry right now in a big way.
Exactly. And, I've heard, about so many of them, whether they're, we're in a startup mode, or there was digital disruption, or consumer markets are shifting, right? Economic cycles. I'm going through a growth spur. We have new leadership requirements. There's some family legacy issues, funding issues, key staff issues, et cetera. Lots of things, both externally and internally, impact the way people create sustainable businesses. And the one thing I think is consistent across, most businesses is that you want to create a sustainable business that is a business that you can either leave to family, or that you can have a transaction with at some point, or that will be healthy during the term you want to run it. And so what we're going to be tackling at this event is basically all of the strategic imperatives that are required for sustainable business models. And so it's going to be very forward-looking. It is for senior leadership in the design space. And, for people who want to build lasting enterprises, and setting it in the luxurious Chatham bars and inns just makes it a lot of fun. And some of the speakers that we've gotten are some of the most iconic, but it's combined with lots of kind of hardworking people and speakers in the business, whether they're designers, architects, consumer media people, whatever, or landscape architects, builders, luxury builders, who are going to reveal the things that they have had to work on in their business that may not be related specifically to design expertise.
And we're huge believers in that. I mean, I think really to excel at whatever business you are in, you have to look at leaders outside of the industry that you are in. So, and I also think it's almost more inspiring, after all these years and all the conferences we've been to, I love hanging with our peeps, but when I really get energized is when we're talking to foodies and authors and fashion people and artists, and they have a totally different viewpoint, but they still have the same challenges and goals as we do in our business.
This sounds like it'll be a great networking event too, because, usually when we do the design conferences, we're with other designers. Here you can be with architects and builders and some really good speakers on business.
And it's a little bit of a smaller event. So I think it would be nice to just kind of rub shoulders a little tighter with.
How many people are you opening it to?
Well, we, again, when you do the first one, who knows, right? But what we did, we set the maximum, the logistics are set so we can handle a maximum of 150 people.
I love that size. I think that's really good.
Yeah.
So, and as we were chatting, as we were preparing for this podcast, we were talking a lot about how the consumer behavior has changed so much in the last year, especially with the digital interference that we're seeing, especially in our industry. And so I feel like this conversation about thinking forward and breaking models is an important exercise for all businesses. And it's vital. I mean, it's imperative. Like, we have to talk about it right now, and we have to do something about it right now. And Joanne and I, that's why our listeners know we've been changing our direction slightly towards vacation rentals, and we've had the most amazing response. And we're going to kind of be, re-envisioning our company for sustainability and going in a slightly different direction. But this is what businesses need to be doing. So, you're such a good storyteller. Do you have a story you can relate to that?
Yeah, I do. Well, I always believe that you should let the world around you form your business, or at least the community that your business is linked to, right? And I learned this lesson. You guys know this. You've heard me say this before, but I learned this lesson from a band that I followed, right, since 1971, the Grateful Dead, right? And these guys basically, they're still playing. They started in '65 and they're still playing in some form. And they're they are the leading grossing touring band in the world. And their model was, let's not define what the Grateful Dead experience is. Let's let our fans decide what it is. We'll just go out and do what they like, which is create music. And we'll break all the rules. We'll let them come in and record the music. We don't care about albums. And they basically let anyone do whatever they wanted with that music at their shows, during their shows, before their shows, outside their shows, and just created a community that was defined by the passionate fans. And so if you're looking, if you, even if you're not a great business strategist and you just think about your life, it's kind of the way Peter Drucker used to think about investing at Fidelity, right? Like, what just makes sense, right? And like, you guys are looking around, right, between Airbnb and VRBO and stuff like that. The world is shifting, the Ubers of the world is just shifting. And if we continue to run the same business models that we launched 30 years ago as the world around us is changing, and we don't let the world define how we go at it, I think that is problematic. And
adapt or die.
Yeah, adapt or die.
Exactly. And so, it's interesting what you were saying for this whole thing about having people from outside your community that have some similarity. Maybe it's a luxury market. Maybe they use similar marketing platform, whatever it is. We do a conference every year in Napa Valley for the multifamily industry. It's called the Multifamily Social Media Summit, and it's attended by property management companies who, have big communities, hundreds of thousands of units under management and so forth. And what we used to do was get speakers from inside the industry and outside the industry. And the inside the industry, people were community managers who were doing a really good job executing social media for retaining residents and finding new residents. And our advisory board looked at us after the second year and they said, stop. No more speakers from inside the industry. We know we've been in this business forever. We know it. We're connected with them online. We see what's going on. We only want speakers from outside the industry. And once we did that, the level of energy at those events just took off. And I learned
it's a breath of fresh air. It really is.
Joanne, it's another conference we have to frickin' go to.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean, we are the queens of multifamily design. Here in Atlanta, at least.
And know, if you want to come, you guys could be my guests there. So you don't.
Oh, another conference to add to our list.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't suck. It's in Napa Valley.
That means wine.
You are our only friend who's the closest thing to a wine sommelier we can come to. So you've exposed us to a lot of great wines, even though, I cannot be converted. I'm a beer drinker through and through.
She's tried, though, really hard.
I've tried. So tell us, or tell our audience, what are your favorite recommendations for a red, a white, and a rosé under $30 a bottle?
Well,
get out your paper and pencils, people.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good question. So I'm going to give you the best answer, because when you recommend a specific wine to a broad audience, unfortunately, the wine industry is still ancient in its distribution models because post-prohibition laws turned all alcohol regulation over to the states. So different states allow different wines to come in or whatever. So what I'm going to do is give you the thing you should ask the person at a good wine shop for, and take their recommendations and just keep experimenting. So for a red, right? My favorite red wine to drink, and this may sound strange to people, is Cru Beaujolais. A lot of people have tried Beaujolais Nouveau, which is kind of a gimmicky thing, to get rid of excess fruit. Forget that.
How do you spell Cru?
CRU. Cru Beaujolais. So there are various crus in the Beaujolais region, which is kind of connected to Burgundy. And the grape that's grown there is called Gamay, Gamay. But like in France, you don't call the wine by the variety, you call it by the region. So Beaujolais.
I feel like I'm in wine class.
Well, it's because he knows so much. He's our wine sommelier friend. I mean, you got any others, Yeah.
Let me just get to this. So Cru Beaujolais, there's many different crus. I can't remember how many there are, 7, 8, 9, I can't remember. Meaning like sub-regions, but they're even tighter than that. And inside there, there are a couple of my favorites. One is meaning region. So I'll give you one. It's Morgon, Morgon. So a Morgon Cru Beaujolais, right? Can be produced by many different producers, but you will find that it's a great food wine. It's also a serious wine. And if you're looking for a great producer, the one I would throw out would be Marcel Lapierre, Lapierre. So that's Morgon. If they don't have Morgon, which they will, then you can ask for a Fleury, Fleuri. So Fleury is a cru, Morgon is a cru, and then there's lots of producers in each one. So just say I want a Morgon Beaujolais, or I want a Fleury Beaujolais. Can you recommend a great producer? And these wines
are going to sound fancy.
These wines.
Yeah, Kelly will ask for that, and I'll say I'll have a Mick Ultra.
No, but I'm taking notes, man. All right. So what about a white? Because you know me and my Pinot Grigio fan?
For white. I go to two countries for. I'm more an old world drinker than a new world drinker, so I go to two countries for white. And also, the bargains are more in Europe than they are in America. American wines are too expensive for what they are,
and they stink.
And they stink. Not all. There's some very, very fine wine, but it's very expensive. So I like two regions: the Loire Valley in France, and I also like the northeast part of Italy for white wine, the kind of the Veneto and Friuli. And so
Veneto is my general favorite.
Yes. And in the Veneto, and this would be my great recommendation, is Soave. Now, Soave has a bad name in America, and it's amazing. This is an amazing production area, but that maybe 3% of all their wines come to the United States because Soave got ruined, and when we were kids, with Soave Bola, this mass-produced crap, right? And so now there are great Soaves out there. And the finest producer of Soave for my money, and I was just at a tasting yesterday called Slow Wine in Boston that was amazing, and they were there, is Pra, P-R-A. So Pra Soave, and the grape is called Garganega. When Soave is produced, it's made from the Garganega grape, Garganega, and it is just a fine bottle of wine, and it costs about $20. And
awesome.
It's great wine. So that would be my tip for white. And really, try a bunch of Soaves. There's many, many good ones. And then a rosé. Well, that's a tough one because there's so many different kinds of rosé made. You just take a red wine, you press it, and you rack it really quickly, and you don't let the fruit, get on there. But there's two iconic areas for rosé. One is in Rioja, and one is in Provence, or that kind of southeastern French area, and so if I'm drinking rosé, I'm drinking either Lopez de Heredia from Rioja, Lopezdeheredia from Rioja, one of the classic producers of old style Rioja, and their rosé is fantastic and it can age, and they release it very late, so it's got lots of bottle age. And that wine maybe costs about $25 or something. And then also anything from the Provence area is where I drink rosé, because that's really where rosé, I think, started. I think rosé really came from that southeastern French area.
That's my fave. I won't drink a rosé unless it's from the Provence area. Because we went there with the kids, and it was fantastic.
Well, thanks for all this wonderful information.
But this was a design podcast. I didn't know it was a wine podcast.
Come on, we have to talk about everything. The Grateful Dead, journalism, the Design Bloggers Conference and Influencers Conference, and now, of course, the Luxury Home Design Summit.
Yeah, like a 30-minute podcast can't cover it all, Adam, but we tried to get in what we could. So for those of you that are interested, you can check out more details on the Luxury Home Design Summit. The website is luxuryhomedesign.summit.com.
And we want to see our peeps there, our luxury peeps. It's going to be awesome. So, Adam, we end every show with an inspirational and funny quote, so don't go anywhere yet. Joanne, which one you want?
I'll do the inspirational quote, because ever since we heard it, which was at the Design Influencers Conference with Michelle Boyd, who is a designer here in Atlanta. He's also starring in the Bravo show Buying It Blind. And so he gave a great speech, and his inspirational quote was, "Winners go with what they have, losers wait on perfection." And that is totally speaking to us, because and he's even talking about when he's going to take an Instagram photo, or when he goes to do something, you play around with it until it's perfect, and then
time passes.
Time passes, and you just don't, either you don't do it or you spent way too much time. So just go with what you have and don't worry about perfection.
Yep. I've been thinking about that for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All right. Here's your funny quote for the day, everybody. I've reached that age where my brain goes from, "You probably shouldn't say that," to, what the hell? Let's see what happens. That is so me because of my big fat mouth. And I've just gone to, I really don't care. So, so Adam, we could talk forever. We are so excited for your new venture, the Luxury Home Design Summit. It's this May 19th through 21st. We wish you all the best with it. And I'm sure we'll see you for lunch in the next couple weeks.
I'll be looking forward to that. And thank you for having me on the show, ladies.
Thanks for listening, and
see you next time.
Have a great day.
Join Joanne and Kelly weekly for a lively conversation about trends, travels to industry events, current design projects, the good, the bad, and the ugly, do's and don'ts, product recommendations, and more. Be sure to follow the fun on Facebook. They're on Instagram at Cole, and of course, you've got to visit them online at candrak-cole.com for more information.